You looked at the calendar this morning and didn't recognize the date. Not the day, the month. The fact that it's already this far into the year. You did the math twice, the way you always do now, and the answer came back wrong both times. Summer was supposed to be coming. Summer already happened. Most people assume the answer is simple. You're stressed. You're getting older. Time just feels different now. But that's not quite right. Time isn't moving any faster. Your clocks haven't changed. The Earth still takes the same number of seconds to spin. What changed is happening inside your head. And once you understand what it is, you'll realize you've been losing years of your life without noticing. For most of human history, nobody could explain it. People in their 50s wrote about it the way people in their 50s still do, with a kind of helpless surprise that the decade had vanished. Then, a French philosopher tried. In 1897, in a paper for the Revue philosophique, a French philosopher named Paul Janet proposed something he called the proportional theory of time perception. When you were 5, 1 year was 20% of everything you'd ever experienced. At 50, 1 year is 2%. The same length of time takes up a smaller and smaller slice of your existence, so it feels smaller too. It's intuitive, it's elegant, and for over a century, it was the answer. The problem is that it's only partly true. In 2010, 2 psychologists tested the proportional theory directly. William Friedman at Oberlin and Steve Jansen at Duke published their results in Acta Psychologica. They surveyed 1,865 adults ages 16 to 80 across 2 countries. They asked how fast the previous week, month, year, and 10 years had felt. What they found broke the clean version of Janet's theory. For the week, the month, and even the year, the answers were nearly identical across every age group. A week feels like a week, whether you're 20 or 60. Only the question about the last 10 years showed the age effect everyone expected. And even there, the proportional model didn't fully predict the shape of it. Something else was doing the work, not math. Something inside the brain itself. In 2004, a Dutch psychologist at the University of Groningen named Douwe Driersma published a book on this exact question. It was called Why Life Speeds Up as You Grow Older. His argument, drawn from decades of memory research, was that you don't experience time the way a clock does. You reconstruct it after the fact. And what you reconstruct it from is the density of memories your brain encoded along the way. When something new happens, your brain works hard. It lays down detailed memories. New faces, new streets, new rules, new emotions. All of it gets written down in high resolution. Later, when you look back, that period feels long because there's so much of it stored. When something familiar happens, your brain does almost nothing. It runs the routine, doesn't bother encoding the details, and moves on. Later, when you look back, there's almost nothing stored. The period feels like it barely happened at all. This is why your first summer at a new job felt like a year. It's why your first month in a new city felt like a season. It's why the year you had your first child stretched out so long you can still feel the weight of it. Your brain was working overtime, recording everything, because everything was new. Think about what a single summer felt like when you were 9. The bike rides, the first time you smelled chlorine and knew it meant pool, the fight with your best friend that lasted 3 days and felt like an exile, the book you read on the floor that changed how you understood your own family. 3 months that, looking back, hold more remembered experience than your entire last year of adulthood. Not because that summer was better, because your brain was still treating everything as evidence. And it's why last week feels like it didn't happen, because to your brain, it didn't. There was nothing in it worth writing down. Which brings us to the part that's harder to sit with. In 2019, an engineer at Duke named Adrien Bejan published a paper in European Review titled, Why the Days Seem Shorter as We Get Older. His argument was different from Driersma's. Bejan wasn't talking about memory. He was talking about the physical machinery of perception itself. He proposed that as the brain ages, the actual neural pathways your senses travel through grow longer, more complex, and more degraded. The signals take more time to arrive. The brain processes fewer images per second than it used to. The same minute of your life now contains less raw experience than the same minute did when you were 12. Not less memory, less actual perception. His conclusion was clinical. Your eyes still move, Your senses still report, but the rate at which your brain turns those reports into experience drops, year by year, in a slow and measurable curve. The implication is unsettling. It's not just that your routines stop generating memories. It's that even the moments you do live through, you're living less of. You're not just remembering less, you're consciously experiencing less of what's actually there. And the modern world makes this worse than it has ever been. For most of human history, novelty was forced on people. Seasons changed how you ate, weather changed how you worked. Travel was rare and disorienting. Most adults knew everyone in their village by face, so a new person was a real event. Your nervous system was constantly being asked to encode something it hadn't encoded before. Now you wake up in the same room, follow the same morning, sit at the same screen, talk to the same people through the same apps, eat variations of the same meals, and go to sleep at roughly the same time. The differences between Tuesday and Thursday are so small your brain has stopped tracking them. Entire weeks pass through you without leaving a deposit. And the screen makes it worse. Every hour you spend scrolling delivers exactly the kind of fast, shallow novelty your brain was built to discard. New images, new faces, new outrage, all of it familiar in shape, all of it forgotten within minutes. You can spend 3 hours in a feed and your brain will register it as 0. You watched 100 different things happen and remember none of them. A life with no novelty isn't a slower life. It's a shorter one. Because the only thing that makes a life feel long is the memory you have of having lived it. And the memory only exists if your brain decided the moment was worth recording. The hours you spent on autopilot are not stored anywhere. They are gone. In the literal sense, that there is no record of them inside you. This is why the last decade can feel like 3 years. 3 years of distinct, encoded experience, dissolved in 7 years of routine your brain didn't bother to keep. When people in their 70s are asked about the year that felt the longest, they almost never name a year in middle age. They name a year between 15 and 25, the years that built them. The years with the first apartment, the first real job, the first time they fell in love, the first time they understood they were going to die. After that, for most people, the recording slows down. Decade by decade, it slows further. By the time you're 60, your brain chooses to remember less of any given week than it used to remember of an afternoon. You did not lose those years. You never had them. They went through you without leaving a trace. And the calendar on your wall is just the part you finally noticed. Time doesn't speed up. You just stop recording it.